Well, hey everyone. Thanks so much for joining this year's Wisdom Keeper Summit. We're gonna do a very short opening practice to start. I love to do this to just formally create our container because it's very interesting as we are entering this container together, how it is collaborative in a sense. I've been loving this concept of 1 + 1 = 3. So I have my own energy, you have your own energy field, but when we come together, we create this third energetic field. And that third energetic field is what is taking precedent here. It's what we're kind of moving through this summit with, is the energies of that kind of third space. So what we all say, the way that we say it, the questions that we ask, at times can be a little bit uncanny and synchronistic because we're all kind of in this energetic field together, pulling these various codes through our bodies into this virtual space for the highest good of all. So we'll just take a moment to gently close our eyes. Just noticing how our body is feeling. Making any gentle movements that you need to help you feel a little bit more grounded and safe. And we'll just take a pause here to listen to the sounds of the wisdom keepers. Staying with the breath, staying with the body. We'll slowly send our awareness to our belly region, our heart, and our head. We'll collectively make a healing vortex today, or a healing container. And we do this because all of the work that we do in this life benefits all those around us. This work is a beautiful ripple effect that we have the privilege of creating and instigating and stewarding. So we begin by inviting the benevolent spiritual traditions that have guided us in this life. The land, the water, the fire, and the air that has nourished us and taught us. The animal spirits, the plant spirits, our higher selves, our spiritual team, our spiritual entourage. We call upon our benevolent ancestral line to be here to also receive these beautiful codes in a quantum way. The temple keepers and the temples, the land that we're on and the land stewards, the dimensions and the threads, the macrocosm and the micro. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you, Sacred Mystery, for bringing us together in this way, for weaving our stories together. And thank you to the earth for holding our stories, for helping us steward our visions into the physical. May we continue to forgive others and accept the things we cannot control. We thank all of the lessons that we learned in this life and that we'll soon learn as well. We say this because it's true. We share for those who haven't been able to, who don't have a voice. And through this prayer, we call upon our victorious selves, the ones who have it all figured out already. I'll pause here in case there are any benevolent intentions, guides, symbols, etc. that you'd like to call upon into our container today. And you can mentally or out loud say their name. We'll make the intention here that anyone or anything that we've invited into our vortex today must disengage and go back to wherever their home is at the end of our meeting, wherever the divine has placed them. May we meet again if it is highest and best. And so it is. Taking a few moments here to receive the energies that are flowing all around and within you. In your own way, your own time, slowly orienting yourself back into the space. Maybe taking a moment to ground in your physical reality by looking around your space before coming back to our virtual one. And just overall taking a moment to ground and arrive back. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for co-creating that beautiful prayer together. Today we'll flow through a short intro and then we'll go into our roundtable with our guests. And we'll end with some audience questions. So if there are any questions that come up that you'd like to dive deeper into, please let us know towards the end. But I'd love to begin with what Wisdom Keepers is. For me, Wisdom Keepers is a collection of tales from the medicine people within our communities, our neighbors, our people even in our own family, and how their lives have changed and been affected by the medicine that they carry within them. Many of us are born with our ancestral gifts or our magic offline. So what I see and what I have experienced is that many times we must go through a series of initiations or awakenings in order to embody our divine mission and purpose. And I feel like this process of surrendering old parts of ourselves or clearing things that are keeping us from maybe embodying a truer or higher version of ourselves is what I like to call the hero's journey. It is a journey we all must go on in order to, I guess, be the leaders and the stewards of this new template or paradigm that wants to come to the planet. It's like we have to do the work first sometimes. We have to change first before we give that initiation to other people. And I see this as a very new way of living that is coming back online. like a new modern way of like ancient teachings, because in ancient teachings we always had the initiations. We were always with the plants, we were always kind of like in tune with all of the living things around us. So now we're kind of going back to that and reorganizing our systems around us in a way that really prioritizes the liberation like of all beings, meaning, you know, living in sovereignty in relationship with the earth, the things that nourish us, like the plants and the animals and the land and the community. And yeah, I feel like this is what the world is waking up to. And we're now seeing that on a physical level, with all of these various old structures and systems crumbling that are really only prioritizing those in privilege and power. So, through today's talk, we are able, in a way, to travel back in time, share what we have learned in order to find a way forward together, and maybe show each other that our stories matter. So, my prayer today is I hope that today acts as a catalyst for our journeys. And I really hope that this conversation blesses us in all of the ways and all of those who are connected to us. And I hope that it continues to build the world that we'd like to participate in. So, for the past 7 weeks, all 15 of us have been coming together to curate this beautiful roundtable together. We've prepared energetically. Our spiritual teams have been, you know, dropping the wisdom codes, trying to help us figure out what are the things we want to say, what stories do we want to share, and also initiating us in our physical lives as well. I feel like that's all part of the process. And yeah, overall, we're just super excited to get started. So I would love to introduce our panel today, our amazing guests. I'm going to start with just giving them a short introduction of who they are, and they can help me fill in any gaps. So I'm going to start with Britt. Britt, Pham, what a badass. What a bad bitch. Honestly, the best. Britt Pham is a first generation Vietnamese Lao American facilitator and multidimensional, yes, that as well, but multidisciplinary artist whose mission has been rooted in creating a tangible bridge between healing and justice work in order to help us easily connect to all life around us. Through their deep relationship with sound and experience design, they've built a bridge that helps others connect to their purpose and the divine on a global scale. You can find their work on the halls of New York City museums, to the sands of the Wadi Rum Desert. What I love about Brit is how easy they make it look to be deeply rooted in the present, even if they are working somewhere on another spiritual plane. Their openness and commitment to this work reminds me to continue to stay curious and flow with the things we may not understand at the moment. They are extremely intentional with all that they do. And I am so, so grateful they are here with us today to share their magic. Britt, anything you'd like to share?
I don't even know how to follow that. I should just get off the call. Thank you so much for seeing me and reflecting me in that way, Horace. I have nothing to add. I'm excited to get into the conversation.
Beautiful. Thanks, Britt. Now moving to Talia. Talia is a mycologist, an alchemy nerd, just one of the smartest people that I probably know. Pretty much like all three of them are really the smartest people that I know, to be honest. But Talia works with multidimensional and spiritual principles in order to create fungal and herbal medicines. You can usually find them in their laboratory or out in nature telepathically communicating with mushrooms. Their tenacity and grit has brought them on a unique and global initiatory journey to discover the bridge between spirit and science. They work in deep devotion and relationship with the plants and fungi all around them because they believe working in reciprocity with nature is a way we remember where we come from. My favorite thing about Talia is how they always find a way to, inject a fun fact about plants or fungi into any conversation. They also are really good at dancing between being super cool and nonchalant while also being like a total nerd. I love the way that Talia has really integrated, the wisdom of their teachers. It really shows how deep the teachings of their teachers are and how they graciously share it with all those around them. So thank you. Talia, anything you'd like to add here?
Not really. That was really great. Thank you, Horace. I feel like you should rewrite my bio for me.
I'll send you this little paragraph.
Thanks for seeing me. I appreciate you.
Of course. Yeah, I think the beauty of this summit is that we are all also very close friends, so we can see each other in many ways that maybe other people don't. So I had so much fun writing these bios. Now moving to Anthos. Anthos is a Nicaraguan and Costa Rican land steward, agronomist, and philosopher whose mission on the planet is to awaken the collective to the interconnectedness of all life and the various oppressive systems around us. You can usually find him climbing up a tree, chopping up coconuts, creating a beautiful bouquet of jungle flowers, or cooking a delicious meal for those around him. He is extremely passionate and knowledgeable on topics like occult mysteries, Latin American history, the feminine, world religions, and more. My favorite thing about Anthos is his commitment to the planet and the healing of those around him. Even during times of difficult change, you can find him in his heart in a state of deep surrender. Anthos, thank you for being a friend and an ally in this life. We're so grateful to have you. Anthos, anything you want to add here?
No, thank you, Horace. I appreciate so much. Yeah, you described me. You just described me, yeah, and I'm honored to be with you. I am really honored to have met you, and yeah, let's do this together. I really believe in your project, and yes, yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Anthos. Beautiful. So today we'll be talking about social change and how overall the changes within us at times reflect what is happening out in the world. Including in this conversation will be the stories of our own times of change and transformation, and also how alchemy, which is pretty much the study of how things change on a multidimensional level, can also act as a compass to really help us figure out how to move forward in a more empowered way. So we're not here necessarily to, I guess, address specific laws or policies in place or political leaders, but maybe instead look at things from a higher perspective. But yes, it is very apparent that it is us versus the billionaires. They are intentionally burning us out at times and dividing us because in that state we're easier to control. I think many of us in this room, we already know that. We don't have to kind of hash it out too much. But many times, if we question the things that are happening around us, we are maybe ridiculed or labeled as spreading misinformation, even though we are just maybe challenging the, quote unquote truth and asking valid questions. I think what makes this topic a little bit complex is that there isn't much of an incentive for those in power to change anything yet. They have a lot of physical and I'm sure, spiritual resources. And I think what's important to know is that we are also a very potent physical and spiritual resource. So we should continue to do our best to embody that and come together so that we can make our own inspired action. So we're really here to share a perspective of hope that answers potential questions like, how can I take better care of all life on the planet? What are some tools I can offer to help the collective heal? Or, how do I resist and disrupt capitalism and white supremacy for the benefit of all? Very big questions. And, I think we do a lot of that through sharing our stories and trusting that we're all here together for a reason. So thank you for taking a chance to be with us today. I'm going to get started with our roundtable. I would love to ask our first question to Britt. Britt, can you maybe share a little bit more about yourself and your journey? Maybe about your spiritual awakening or even your queer awakening, any awakenings that you feel are best to bring into this space. Yeah, I'll just give you the floor. Thanks.
Thanks, Horace. I knew this question is coming and I knew I was going to be first. And I've been trying to not rehearse it in my head. So let's just see what comes up. But thank you, Horace, for creating our context so intentionally, because something I really pulled from what you just shared is this kind of parallel journey of the individual and the collective and how they reflect each other. And it's actually helping me wrap my head around what I want to share, which is, I'll just start by saying, my journey starts before I was born with my parents. I'm the child of refugees from the American War in Vietnam. I'm first generation, and that's just a really big part of my identity and my journey and my positionality in the world. And for a lot of my life, I was, what's the word that you used? Not activated, not awakened. I was just very much inside the capitalist rat race and doing the thing I thought I needed to do to survive. And I would say that if I'm thinking about my moments of awakening, the biggest or first one that I can remember is in 2020 when the pandemic happened. And I don't think that's a unique experience by any means, but definitely was mine. And I think that collective moment of shutting down and awakening definitely rocked me individually. And that's when I started really looking inside and really questioning why I was doing the things that I was doing, what my greater purpose was. I'd always been really interested in social impact, social change. That's what my work has been my entire life. But I think 2020 is when it really became a slower, more intentional, thoughtful process. And that's when I found sound art, sound meditation, began learning and offering that, and diving into the world of coaching and ceremony and ritual. And I know these words can be very buzzwordy. I'm sure we'll get into more of it later, but I think that's where I'll leave it for now. And simultaneously, I love that you offer this question on queer awakening, because that was also the moment in time where I was I don't think everyone's like this. And there was a very specific, strange moment. I remember I was road tripping with my family from Houston to Louisiana to go to a casino because we're Asian and that's what we do. And I was sitting in the back of this car with my whole family, and all week I had been feeling so unsettled in my body and just so restless, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about this feeling of internal caging, and for some reason something clicked and I was what if I started using they them pronouns? And I felt this feeling of total alignment that I'd never really felt before in my life. And I was okay, I'm non-binary. And it was just such a strange moment, but I think I'm sure there were many things that led up to that, like clicking. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think that was a lot to drop, but yeah, very big major moments over the past few years. Thank you for the question.
I'm answering the question now, right? Okay. Okay.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what's happening, but my computer's like it looks like so glitchy right now, but like let's continue. I'm sorry. Like yeah. We'll hopefully it figures itself out.
Should I just pass it to Talia?
Yeah. Talia, you can answer that question as well. I'm talking, but I just can't see anything, so I might also join on my phone. But we can continue. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Britt. It was really nice to hear your response. I feel really resonant with a lot of your story, and you also have a very eloquent way with words. Of course. Yeah, so I'm Talia. Horace sort of introduced me in a really good way. Some things that I want to share that weren't said. It's just more about my background and my upbringing. I was born and raised on Oahu in Hawaii. I'm Filipino American, and I'm actually currently in the Philippines going through a deep initiation. And it's been a really heart-opening and humbling experience, to say the least. I grew up with a family of 5 in a very, low-income neighborhood, and was very fortunate to go to a really prestigious school. And I found my way to San Diego in 2019 to pursue education. And I never thought that I would end up being in STEM or be studying any sort of science. It sort of took me by surprise. And I feel like I was always really fascinated by the plant realm, the mushrooms, just like the natural world. Growing up on an island, I was really fortunate to, yeah, just be so, intimately involved with nature. And I never realized how fortunate I was until I grew up a little bit and came back to gratitude for the way that I grew up and for my family and their constant support. Yeah, I sort of had my, so-called dark night of the soul or spiritual awakening really young. I was about 17 years old, and it was a very distinct moment. And it actually started with one of my bosses that was employing me at the time, and he was sort of this, what people viewed as a very like unhinged, crazy conspiracy theorist. And I was like one of the only ones that ever listened to him. I didn't really have a choice, but I was also very much fascinated by all that he had to share with me. And he actually opened up my eyes to a lot having to do with food sovereignty and like how we feed our bodies and how we have a conscious choice, and sort of like everything that underlies the food system and the corruption there. And that was kind of like a catalyst for me to realize, oh wow, I have a choice of how I feed myself. And I think when you realize that you have been lied to in many ways, it lights up something within you that is like, oh, actually, I don't want to comply with this system anymore. And I was really young at the time, and I didn't really know how to navigate that. I felt a lot of anger. But that drove me to, really just be involved with activism since then. And yep, like I said, I went to school for studying nutrition, but I actually ended up dropping out to pursue growing mushrooms. And it's been a journey of just, following the fungi since then. And I've been really fortunate to meet so many incredible people and be sort of like a self-taught mycologist. And and I'm just continuing to pursue the plant path and to just be led by all of my, my plant teachers. I say that they are the ones that teach me how to be in good relation with those around me and with the earth, and sort of this like grand remembrance. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to share right now.
Thank you so much, Talia. I'm so sorry, everyone. This never happens. I wish you could see my computer. It looks like it has a virus. This is what happens when you talk about the government. But we shall continue. I'm just gonna restart my computer, but I'm here on my phone. And we're still recording, which is great. Thank you so much, Talia, for sharing your journey. Thank you so much, Britt, as well. Britt, I feel like being a first generation child of refugee parents, and like to see where you have gone within your life, and not saying that because of your background and anyone's background, they can't get to a certain place, but I do understand like the journey of having to fight a little bit harder and a little bit more strategic than others, and to see where you are in the world and how you've navigated your life, and all the things that you have achieved. It's really amazing to see. And Talia, you as well. Like, I feel like being able to really connect to the land of Hawaii and your teachers, and being able to really deepen into your own practices and your own initiatory journey, and seeing where you have gone as well. It's so inspiring. And I love that, like, as people of color, as spiritual people, we're like continuing to fight the good fight and continue to move forward in all of the ways. So thank you both for sharing. I'm going to ask the same question to Anthos. Is there anything, Anthos, about your journey that you'd like to share? Anything that comes to mind?
Thank you. Well, my spiritual journey began 6 years ago. I was born in Costa Rica, but I was raised in Nicaragua. So I didn't know that much about first developing country in kind of way. Costa Rica is not that third developing country as Nicaragua. Nicaragua is really, really, really like a poor third world country. So I really understand what it means to raise in so much difficulties, and because I was raised in a farm, like in a town, in a small town, let's say, that is sustained by farming. Like you have to work on the farm. If you don't, you're just not gonna eat. Nicaragua has this thing of socialism that has been beneficial from my perspective of the world, which is you have to work to get what you have. Any other way, there's no way to be who you are right now. And I came to Costa Rica, and it was different because here people had it more easy than Nicaragua. Here the conditions are more, the facilities are more easy. Here is more easy than Nicaragua to get a good education, good healthcare system. Everything is just better than Nicaragua. Transportation, everything. I'm not talking like it's the same as USA. Of course, it's not, but it's much, much better than Nicaragua in Costa Rica. So income also, you can earn so much money here in Costa Rica doing much less. So the differences are extreme. But also here the people is not used to work in the land. Here the people is not used to do a hard work. They have it easy all the time, which makes them a bit not that competitive when it comes to get food from nature. The system made a huge distortion on people's minds that makes them believe that abundance comes from money. No, abundance comes from nature. You plant something and you're sure you're gonna get something from it. From the system is not that. No, you do a business and good luck. You have to know the system to be to get some money from whatever you're doing. But from land is not gonna trick you. You just have to surrender to the forces of nature. That's something that I just learned from my background, and that's at the first time when I came here to Costa Rica, I was like, oh my God, I wish I have been raised here in Costa Rica. Like, why did they took me to Nicaragua, to this third world country, so poor and so miserable? At some point, I was thinking like this, and then I get to a point when I was, and mostly right now, because I am changing my perspective of so many things that I was wrong, is that no way I can't say Nicaragua was a mistake at all. I mean, the talents I get from these conditions, um, I'm just not gonna. There's no other way people here is gonna get that, because they are used to computers, to cars, to facilities, to commodities. They are not used to hard work, which makes them a bit. I mean, you could say, why is my conditions faster or better for the system? I wasn't made for the system. I wasn't made to make money. I'm a human being that know that I know my body was created by a planet, not by money. Money wasn't feeding me. My hands were feeding me. And this is something not even people that have left the town, like or the farm, to cities, they don't even understand it, because they are like, no, the system is abundance and you have to make money and blah 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 about the money. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I need money sometimes, because yeah, I understand for sure. but but now I mean, right now, where I am right now is like, in like, have you heard this thing of being in two horses? Like, you cannot ride two horses. If not, you're gonna fall. So that's where I am. One horse is the capitalistic system, and the other horse is communities. Communities are not based on money. I mean, we are going to create communities out of money, yes, because yes, but once you get food from your land, and I don't have a land, I'm relying on people, so I am trusting a lot. I am in a deep process of trusting and surrendering, because there's no other way you're gonna create community, or you're gonna join any community. You have to surrender to whatever. I mean, wherever you are, you have to just be humble and offer your hands to work, to do a hard work. And and is and for my spiritual journey, this is just just a huge change, because I also was said that I had this intuition at midpoint of my spiritual path, which was, do you want to leave the system? And this was a question 6 years ago I had when I also came to Costa Rica. It's so ironic, because I was coming to the first world country, and the question was, you have to leave the system, and I'm just meeting the system. And I said yes, because it's like, I don't even care about money. Really, I don't care. I mean, yes, I have to, whatever. Yes, I have to. Yes, but if I can get away to not relying on money, but on people, on trusting people, yes. So then a huge process of ambiguity started in myself, which was money and then communities, and then money and then communities. Communities, I read right now, do you know how much money I have right now? I have $4. That's what I have right now. And I'm fine. I have everything. I also have internet. I mean, I am not paying this, and some other people is paying. Of course, I'm not, but I'm doing another work. I'm doing my work. It's not that I'm being here like, yeah, let's sustain Johnny's life. No, it's like it's an exchange. But I don't have the money. Let's say, what if I get sick, or what if whatever, and then it's like, no, I have to take care of myself. I really have to take care of myself and not get sick. In any other way, I'm fucked up. Yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you so much, Anthos. You bring up so many great points of really how the land and the conditions of the land help us develop in a certain way. You also bring, such a refreshing and great perspective on living in a very primal way, which is very real for all of us. I met Anthos by living in community with him and a few others for about a month in Costa Rica, and learned so many amazing things from Anthos. And I think all of us as spiritual initiates, spiritual people, we're trying to find that balance of living in community, living in a more maybe beneficial way to all life around us, while also balancing having to live in a very capitalistic world. And it's hard because this world really gives a lot of privileges to those who live within capitalism, or that even have the means to afford, healthcare or organic food, or all of these privileges that I believe should be, open to all people. So yeah, I think this is a very futuristic perspective and point to kind of bring in pretty early on of, how do we balance both of those two? I would love to go to Britt and see, your own experience as someone that, in my eyes, has been very successful in blending the two of the spiritual world and having enough means to do the things that you want to do. So I'm curious for you, Britt, how has that process been? Was that an easy process? Were there things that you had to sacrifice in order to kind of ride two horses in a sense?
Oh yeah. It's kind of wild that this conversation point is coming up right now, because the past 2 weeks for me have been like, I guess what you would call an initiation in this topic. I've been I'll just back up a few steps. For most of my adult life, I lived in New York City, and I was lucky enough to work for myself and support myself financially that way. Um, and over the past few years, I moved to San Diego, took some time off of work, which was its own initiation, and then I took a corporate job. And the last few years have been learning how to navigate a world that is so out of alignment with my values for secure, like financial stability, security. And it's been a total reorganization of how I live my life, because before I had total control over my schedule and what I got to say yes to, and the work that I was doing was directly around community building and social impact and creativity. And I just felt so lucky that I got to to do that. And that's kind of something that folks say in like the entrepreneur, like especially wellness, industrial TM space. It's like, oh, I'm so lucky to like get to work for myself. But the dark shadow side of that is that it really sucks sometimes. It's really hard, and you sacrifice a lot of stability to live in this capitalist world. And then the past few years, it's been totally opposite for me, where I've had the stability, but I've had to learn how to funnel my time and energy towards still doing the community work that I want to do, because I have the privilege of this like foundational security with money. So, oh, and Zoom thinks I'm raising my hand. Um, and so I don't know. I don't know if I have like practical tips or tools of how to do it, but something that I've been thinking about recently is like how life comes in seasons and life ebbs and flows. And some seasons you can be living your life totally in alignment with your values and making certain sacrifices somewhere. And then other seasons, things have to change. And trying not to judge myself for that or like assign morality to it. Like I hear someone like Anthos sharing about his life, like living on a farm, having $4, and I'm like, oh my God, that seems like winning to me. Like I'm doing something wrong because I'm not living like that. But it's a constant like practice of saying, okay, like where am I? Where are my people? What is my role in the ecosystem of trying to live life intentionally and move culture and move our world and shepherd, like be a good future ancestor and shepherd in the kind of world that we want to leave behind. And that role will always be changing throughout our lifetimes. So I hope that answered the question. I'll pass it to back to you, of course.
Back to me, back to the news. Yeah, this is such a juicy topic. I think a lot of us as spiritual teachers, it's just something that we have so much difficulty with. I have so much difficulty with this right now. You know, I'm like Anthos. Like I also have $4, but I'm not living in a farm. I mean, I have a lot of other, benefits and whatever. I won't go into that, but it's true. We do have to sacrifice many things in order to make our needs, get our needs met. And I love what you bring up of thinking about it as an ecosystem. So if we're in this ecosystem of humanity, and some of us are guides or spiritual teachers that find more benefit from being very clean and clear within their values so that they can help guide and steward their communities, then how can those who maybe have similar values as us support us in some way? I think that's also kind of a big ask, because I think spiritual work isn't cute. We're like delivering initiations to people. We're helping guide them through their dark night of the soul, through the cave of, hey, I don't really know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna get there. And what'd you say? Acknowledging.
Yeah, I just dropped something in the chat. I just want to acknowledge teachers and elders, and I just want to the social change ecosystem concept comes from someone named Deepa Iyer and the Building Movement Project. So I think it's a really lovely thing to sit with if anyone's interested in.
Thanks so much. You always have great resources, so thank you for putting it in the chat. Yeah, I'm curious for you, Talia. You have an amazing business. I'm curious, how that process was like for you, because you very consciously work with alchemy to blend, fungal actions and the cosmos and multidimensionality and all of the things. And it seems like you are having a lot of success in that realm. So I'm curious for you if anything comes up that you'd like to add to this conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like this question is so relevant to what I've been feeling lately. I think a lot of people, they look at me and they feel like they want what I have. And it's a privilege to be in that place. And I'm really, really grateful for the work that I get to do, and that I get to do what I love every day. And lately, I also have been feeling like I'm working my ass off and barely having any time to tend to myself. And it's definitely been a dance, especially because I serve medicine as well. And it's really important for me to tend to, I mean, even if I don't serve medicine, it's really important to tend to our spiritual bodies and to our physical bodies. And I definitely have found myself feeling like I'm in a hamster wheel at times, especially living in a city and with like the ridiculous economy that's happening right now. And yeah, I think it's really real to talk about how difficult it is to, be self-employed. And I think it's something that's really, glamorized. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I also sometimes feel like it's really vulnerable to share your gifts and to be like, okay, like this is what I'm doing and I'm taking this huge leap, and like, do you want to like buy my medicine? And and it's so much of our success is based off of like our financial abundance too, and I see so many people that are working in, medicine, or who are self-employed, or like artists, and you know they're doing all the things right, and maybe people just aren't buying their art, and it's really taking a toll on their mental health, and just like, yeah, their spiritual bodies, and it's vulnerable for sure. And also like you're forced to wear a lot of hats when you're self-employed. But then there's also like this whole other side of things where, because I don't know if you even know this, Horace, but I've been working a corporate job for like the past 6 months or so. I got hired at a mushroom supplement company, the biggest one in North America. And it's been a blessing to work in their lab. I work at Mushroom Superfoods. They're like in Target and Whole Foods, and yeah, they're quite big. I'd say they're like the most corporate the mushroom industry can get. And it's really shown me the other side of the industry, and it's allowed me to, add a lot of tools to my belt, and sort of like witness how I would and wouldn't want to run my own business. And now having worked, you know, in such a corporate job relative to, my work in my own lab, and sort of how I just do things how I want to do them, I've realized like how much of a privilege it is to be able to, yeah, just be in this place of trust and, surrender with my own work. And that's a huge part of alchemy, right? Is, seeing the transformation happen. And so my teacher describes alchemy as actually just like nature's evolution, and humans being able to sort of mimic that in our own way, using the four elements, using all the alchemical processes. And it's been a huge lesson of like, okay, I may not have, I'm quitting my corporate job, by the way. So I'm like, it's a whole thing that I'm going through right now. But basically it's, this huge lesson of like, okay, I'm going to continue to follow my dream. And once again, it's terrifying. And I know that I need to do it. It's so apparent that that's my dharma and my path.
Yes, Talia, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's very inspiring to see the way that Talia works and everything that they know. And just, I love just watching you on Instagram share the behind the scenes of being in the lab, and also just seeing your success as like a young person, and to just hear about your journey, because, you know, your journey runs very deep. Talia has lived many lives in my perspective. So I feel like I'm very inspired by Talia, and their work ethic, and how they move through life. But it's true, like everything that you're saying, sometimes we do have to give everything for our dreams in order to do something that aligns with our values. And it's hard because I'm also experiencing this as well. Like, spirit brings us to a city so that we can serve as many people as possible. But in any city, it's like really high rent or really expensive materials. And I think sometimes we're led there to go undercover, and go undercover into the zeitgeist, or like kind of the cave, or whatever we want to call it, in order to pull resources from maybe this corporate job, or wisdom, but then also give the people that are, in a sense, being oppressed by these the values of having to live in a city system, and really offer as much as we can so that they can get through and that they can kind of survive. But it's a very hard topic, definitely, because it's a lot of self-sacrifice. Like for me, I make an herbal tea of a blend that I created for every class that I teach twice a week at like a Pilates studio. And I'm like the only person that teaches spiritual classes there. And I don't really get paid anything. And I offer so much value to my community at the same time. And I see the way that sharing plant medicine, sharing ancient body-based technology with people, how it really benefits them from start when they're coming in super nervous to the end where they're like, oh my gosh, this is what a regulated nervous system is like. This is what I'm supposed to feel like. This is my birthright. This is what the systems are taking away from me. And it's just like we take everything that we've learned, we compress it into a file, and we share that with people. And that's really why we kind of go through this whole journey, and then we end up back into the city, or we end up back into a place where we're supposed to share with as many people as possible. But I just trust that that is also part of the journey that we're on of alchemy, in a sense of alchemizing ourselves and evolving, and sometimes being very pressurized in that sense, the corny metaphor of like creating diamonds. And I trust that, all of us coming together in this way, in this summit, that we will find clarity and answers moving forward, as all of us are balancing morals and money, and ancient traditions, and tending to the relationships of all life, and being respectful, and reciprocity and reverence, and all of the things. But it isn't easy. But I love this conversation already, because I think it's yes and not like you can only do this or you can only do this. So I'm gonna bring it back to Anthos, and I would love to ask Anthos, like, what do you feel like awakened you the most in this life? And how do you feel like you found purpose? Or I feel like for you, Anthos, your experience related to spirituality is like you very tangibly hear the voice of the earth. So kind of what experience helped you start to recognize that and understand that it was the spirit of the earth, or anything there that you'd like to share?
Okay, for me, recognizing my feminine is it still is extremely important, because even though I know I am a man, for me, masculine resembles to the spirit. Masculine is spiritual realm. Masculine is hierarchies, the higher dimensions. Let's say spiritual realities out of 3D, 4D world. Um, that's masculine in terms of polarity, like yin and yang. We are the feminine, totally the feminine, all of the universes, all of the galaxies, all of what exists in matter and in the fourth dimension, the astral, is feminine. Men and women are feminine in terms of polarity. So all of us are feminine. What we experience as men and female is a reflection of the creation, a fractal. And we replicate the act of dualism by replicating ourselves, right, with sex. So that's the basis of creation. And well, because I am a man, I have a penis. I don't recognize myself with the penis I have. I don't I don't see my power in my penis. I mean, it's funny. This is funny, but men does do that. They see it like that because it's like that. That's masculine power. But for me, it's not. For me, my power is on. Yeah, my a friend of mine is just right here, and he's also laughing. And and I am in a huge process of recognizing because I was always with guys, dating guys, but they didn't get. But I didn't get it. Also, I was like, I am gay. I don't know, like whatever. Just let's talk. But but then it was like there's something here. I do not see myself. I do not see myself with at the same way as the masculine guys. The last masculine guy I dated with, he was so masculine that he made me feel the feminine I am. In a way that I am connecting right now with my heart in a deeply, deeply way. At some point that I was like so lost in this dualistic experience in which I am because um people don't even this is the real issue people is struggling with. Like, you're a man, I was taught all of my life, yes, that I am a man, I have to behave like a man and behave like a man, and you're a man, and blah blah blah, with the masculine. I was so sick with the masculine, but so sick with the masculine that I was fighting myself because I'm not. I'm not. Yes, I seem like I am because I was born like this, but I am not. I am more than I I feel myself more close to female, to the feminine, to women. I understand them more than masculine. I don't understand men. Really, I don't. I just see them and I'm like, what? And they also see me like that, back because it's confusing. And then I realized that my force, my real force, and if I want to empower myself in the feminine as that I was born with, because I was always intuitive, and 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 this is something tricky because I can be extremely feminine, but behave like a man. So people might be extremely confused. Then I am like a man, and then I behave like a man, and then I feel and I see the energies, I see what they are doing. I feel I as a woman, I feel the energies moving, and then it's like I can be so manipulative, so manipulative. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it, but I was doing. I was being really dark. I have to say, I was being really dark because I wasn't taught to connect with my heart. I was taught to connect with my penis. Like, really. And yeah, and now for me it's totally different. Now for me it's like, wow, in my power, the power that you can get with your heart when you really connect your intuition with your heart, and of course your sexual power. But your sexual power is above is below, is under, is not above. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. And
Yeah, I feel like you always bring us down like this beautiful story of like so many codes. Like there's so many things there that we can really touch on. But I think overall, it seems like what has really awakened you the most in this life is seeing the kind of toxic masculinity around you and how it's been so toxic that it's like helped you awaken to your feminine side. But then with understanding your masculine and your feminine, you're now understanding, how do I balance this polarity of both, like, am I just one? Am I both? And how do I balance that? I'm curious for you, Britt, if anything that Anthos shared you'd like to piggyback on, in terms of how we balance polarity within ourselves, but also how we balance polarity out in the collective. Because yes, there are very dark things happening in the collective, very dark things happening within ourselves. And yeah, if there's anything there that kind of comes to mind in terms of adding to the conversation.
I love that reflection, Horace. You're so good at pulling the threads and weaving them together into like a next step or next part of the journey. I guess what comes to mind when it comes like with polarity, I mean, so much comes up around like femininity, masculinity, gender, sexuality that I think Anthos covered really beautifully. But if I were to think of like what else comes up, I also think about, mm, we have like these systems of oppression that we live inside of: capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy. And externally, collectively, we have, folks who align with these systems and folks who don't align with these systems. But then I also think about like just the concept of internalized patriarchy, internalized white supremacy, and like I can't remember who I was talking with. It might have been my therapist, honestly, last week, where we were talking about just like the colonizer within, right? And I've been practicing something called IFS therapy for the past few months, which my friend Phoenix, who's on this call, told me about, and that's why I see an IFS therapist. Since for internal family systems, and the whole concept of it is sitting with these different parts of yourself and really listening to what they have to say, and really embodying the practice of compassion rather than just like hammering yourself over the head to be compassionate with yourself. And I've been sitting with a lot of shadows, and part of it is like my internal white supremacist, my internal colonizer, who like has these beliefs about how the world should be and how I should be and how people in my life should be, and the layer of like shame that I feel for thinking this way. And so I think like, we could have a whole conversation about what does it take to enact social change collectively and get folks to like dismantle these systems and blah blah blah. And that's like community organizing theory and praxis and whatever. But I think like inside of this space, what I feel most called to highlight is how the work starts within. And I like don't say that to just be like the work starts within. Like everyone says that, but like I really mean it, is that how do we individually practice listening and making intentional choices, and how does that ripple out, and maybe that can inspire the next person. And yeah, it just reminds me, the last thing I'll say is it reminds me of a conversation I was having with my partner last night, actually, about social media and the ways that we've capitalized our digital attention. And I was listening to like a Trevor Noah podcast about this, and I had this thought where I was like, damn, what if Mark Zuckerberg, when he was creating Facebook, saw the opportunity to sell an ad to make money, and he in that moment made the decision to not do that and to build his business a different way? Like what would the butterfly effect of that be? What might that have inspired for other creators of these platforms that dictate our entire world now? And I think there's so many ways of looking at it, but I would like to believe that if we can, like, if one powerful person makes the right decision, then more powerful people will make the right decision. And like, we are all powerful in our own communities, in our own worlds. And so I just think about the ripple effects of that. I'll stop there.
Britt, you're just getting us together. Thank you so much for that share. There's so much there. How we decolonize our minds, how we reprogram our subconscious, and really all of the beliefs that tell us that we should be a certain way. And a lot of the times, those beliefs come from, our own family, what is passed down to us, and also social media. So I love the way that we are also looking at kind of subconscious and even maybe a past life kind of view of why we are the way we are. I would love to pass the mic to Talia and ask for you, have there been any specific practices or anything for you for ending, various forms of oppression, restoring the balance between yourself and nature, or overall just how has your experience been decolonizing your mind? Such a loaded question. Anything there that you want to touch on?
Thanks, Horace. Such a loaded question. Ooh. Yeah, I just feel like there's so much there. But what came to mind for me was sort of how I was talking about, like my relationship with having a corporate job. And I noticed that a lot came up, when it came to knowing that I needed to end that chapter and sort of how conditioned I was into, feeling like I needed to have a constant paycheck, and not even just like the monetary aspect of it, but also being able to tell my family, like, oh, I have a corporate job and like I go to work at 9 and I end at 5. And, and the amount of security that brought me in being able to tell them that, and I think that's come up a lot this trip, time and time again, and just like speaking my truth and realizing how much I was holding in my body when it came to previously not speaking those truths, and how scared I was, and sort of like the blockages that I have felt come up within my throat, and um, how necessary it's been for me to push through that, and to sort of one of my teachers describes like an awakening as like a great remembrance, but also, we go through so many series of death and rebirth as we become awake, because it's remembering, but it's also leaving a lot behind, a lot of the old beliefs, a lot of the conditioning that we've come to known as, as truth. And even
Did Talia freeze for
Yeah,
you?
The Philippines, the Philippines Wi-Fi. We'll just give a second.
We're dropping so much energy that the electronics just
know.
can't handle it today.
This hasn't happened with any other talk. But we'll just give Talia some moments to come back. But I love what they're sharing around how through saying no to maybe having security or a corporate job, how that can be really healing, and healing to our maybe generational side of ourselves, that our family is like, you need to have a life that's just like this. And many times that pressure, at least for me, as like my own immigrant parents, and them being like, well, we did this whole entire journey to get you here. Now you must do things that we say. You must be the star child. You must go and make the money for the family. And then you go on this whole journey to do that. And then you realize, was I doing this for myself? Was I doing this for my family? What was I doing this for? And then we leave, we do our own thing, and then we realize, oh, I'm doing my own thing, struggling so much, I don't have money. And then we kind of go back into that kind of alchemical cycle of like, how can I get my needs met and get closer and closer and closer to my values? Being at a job and being like, oh, from face value, it looks like they have great values. You go into the job, as you're there more and more, you realize, oh no, it's actually the opposite. So you leave, and then you enter the hamster wheel again. But I trust that every experience is for a reason, and that we're putting our intentions out to get closer to the people that are that we need to meet, the people that we need to collaborate with. And yeah, that there's hope, and not that every corporate job is bad and evil, even though part of my brain is like, yes, do your own thing. And that's why I'm, here with all of y'all talking about, living in community. But, yes, and as always in this conversation. Is Talia back? Oh, okay. Cool.
I'm so sorry. I think my
No, you're
Wi-Fi
good.
just cut out.
Oh, it's okay. Anything else you'd like to share to, close your thoughts or anything?
Yeah, I think I was just touching on, the importance of death and rebirth in this process of spiritual awakening and polarity, and how it's just like I see life as being on a very wide spectrum. And I think that, that view has really affirmed a lot for me and my expression, and being like, oh, things don't necessarily have to look like this or that. They can look like something in between. And once I sort of had the terminology for that and the community to affirm that within my own expression in the world, it was super enlightening for me spiritually. And then I started, really diving deep into esoteric wisdom and alchemy. And they pretty much value the dark just as much as they do the light. And essentially, transformation is one of the, vital parts of alchemy. Of you can't really feel exalted until you bear the wrath fire. And that was such a resonant concept for me, and being able to actually, carry that forth in a lab and physically do it was really, really special. So yeah, just bring it all together, that the idea of polarity feels really resonant, in my path. And I think that a lot of people talk about, all of the really beautiful parts of spirituality and what it's like to come out on the other side. But I think it's really important to also address what it's like to be in the deep depths of hell within as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You just took everything that we just said and just ended the spiral. So thank you. With what you share about dark and light being part of the recipe, the dark, in a sense, can be the corporate job. The dark can also be not having money. The light can be having money. The light can also be living your purpose. So understanding that it always, in a sense, has to be balanced. Maybe you're living your purpose, but then there are also a lot of really hard, dark things happening. Maybe you have all this money, but maybe there's a lot of this kind of other stuff that isn't the best with being able to get that money and where it comes from. And is it clean money? Is it dirty money? And then also is how am I using my energy? What systems am I voting for? I always like to think about us voting with our dollar. Are we using our money to in a sense give uplift the people that are in privilege, or are we here to really help those that really do need help? I'd like to go to Anthos with our next question. And in spirituality, we hear so much, and even in this conversation, of living in community and taking care of our neighbors. And the new age is very community based and all of the things. For you, Anthos, why do you believe that living in community or community based or overall living interconnected with life around you, why is that really important for this new step of our evolution as humanity?
Future is not the system. The system is about to collapse. When climate change is a real thing, and the thing with the climate change is that people has made it a greenwashing business. At the end, it's not even about the climate change. It's just about corporations profiting from the climate change at the end. Plastic is everywhere, so don't waste your time about recycling, really. We use plastic, we use money, we use the system for creating community. And community is based on nature, is based on the planet. And when you are on the planet, when you are anchored, when your three-dimensional body is anchored in the planet, you trust the planet because the planet is already shifting. And from my experience, because I am really connected with the planet from my whole life, always crop something and grow something. I feel vibrations and I feel messages from the planet and birds and animals, ants, all of them sometimes behave in a way that not even the community understand. And I'm like, they are just sending messages of warning, like shifts are coming, like everything is gonna shift, and they just don't see it because they are not connected to them. Nobody's connected to the birds, to the trees, to any living being, and because it's a disconnection with our living bodies. We are not connected to ourselves as a living body. We are just profiting money to create our ego self, like whatever we believe the system is for us, because we're just, this is at the end, this is an illusion. We're gonna die. So anyway, whatever with the system, whatever with the money, whatever with what we used to, what we used to do, like I need a car, or I need this, we need nothing. We just need to, well, we have to eat, right? And we have to be healthy, and we have to, all of that is already, is already for you. If the planet is already giving it to us. It's an illusion that we need money. We were taken out of nature to believe that we need to buy food because we cannot grow food. Why we cannot grow food? Because land is in hands of big corporations. So yeah, we cannot grow food. I don't have my land. Yeah, I understand that. But that's why communities are important, because if you can be a friend of someone that has enough land and space, because there's so many people with so much land and space for growing. And if you get close to them in a humble and trustworthy and really offering your hands to work and be a real friend to them, whatever the issue they might have, because at the end, the issue these people might have is in total resonance with your state of consciousness at the end. So anyway, because we might be afraid sometimes of reaching people that, what if he's crazy? What if he does this? What if they do that? We're the same. We're already crazy inside. So anyway, so and trusting these people and getting close to them, and believing in the community, because no one's believing the community. I came here, I came to this place, and the guy I'm living with, he's like, I need money, we need to make money, I have to pay here. And I'm like, yes, I fully understand. But there's some people here building the community, right? And these people is like, okay, let's do it. But of course we need money. But first it's about trusting, it's about confidence, it's about who are you, right? How can we become friends first? It's not about money. It's not that how can we make a business? No. Yeah, I have to. I don't need money at this moment, so I already deleted that phrase from my vocabulary. I don't need money right now at all. What I demand is a demand. I say I shifted the word. I don't need money. I demand food. I demand health. I demand being safe. And if in this community I am not given safety, and I am not given trustworthy, so I can live, because I don't need money from anyone. Money, I can get money from the system. I know how the system works. I can do it for sure. I had a business. I know how to make money. Money is not the issue. Trust, trusting is the issue. We do not trust because we are so into ourselves. even myself, I'm talking from myself. I was so into myself, into my ego. I came here, I'm going to talk about my experience. I came here like, I know how to run business and let's do business and yeah, let's make money. And then I crashed with the reality that these people was like, can you calm down with your ego and with your money thing? Because everyone already here knows that. And then I was like, fuck. Yeah, I was triggered by that because then I was like, wow, this is a real thing. These people is really into communities. They are not joking. They really wanna do it. So forget about what you know. Now it's like, how can we connect ourselves again with with first with ourselves, with first with, because I also recognize how disconnected I was from myself. Like, wow, even though I was into nature and I came here like, because yeah, I can, yeah, I know how to trim trees and I know animals and everything. And then it's like, Johnny, can you focus on yourself? And then I was like, wow, so needy, so lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, lack of a lot of things, you know. And that makes me remember again humbleness. And we're not going far with the ego at all. People with the money, Elon Musk and whoever, they're doing with the system. Let them go to Mars, to Mercury. Let them go there. They are just gonna die anyway. Yeah, that's my opinion.
I love it so much. I love what you share around like if we are deeply connected to ourselves, then we can then connect in reflection with nature. And because nature is always in a state of abundance, when we are in this kind of reciprocal, reverent relationship with nature and the plants, um, we're always in a state of abundance as well because we are around them. And I think community is really important here, from what you share, because we can't create and like sustain life alone because like we are fighting against people who have more money than us, fighting against systems. And I feel like we can't do that alone. We need more people to help. And I feel like also it's really important what you share around like real community, being not about, oh, we're just doing this thing, we're just trying to survive. It's like, no, we're actually trying to connect heart to heart. We're trying to build trust. We're trying to kind of create a soul family in a sense, or a chosen family that we choose and that we deeply trust, so that we can get our needs met and so that we can receive security. So thank you, Anthos. You always drop the codes. Let's see. I would love to go to Britt and ask, what world would you like to create moving forward for yourself? I guess yeah. It's a very open-ended question, but I guess from Anthos's share and from your own visions of the future, what are you, I guess, working towards, and what are your visions for what you'd like to create in the world?
I love this question. There's so much about Anthos' share that I also wanted to riff on. So I'm gonna like do that real quick and see if I can make my way into whatever. Something like that came up for me with Anthos' share around like his journey of coming to where he is now and coming in with like, oh, I built this business and I'm really into nature and like I know the whole thing, and then having community really be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I really resonate with that. I feel like that was my 2020, like, oh, whatever, awakening, whatever you want to call it, is that, I'd been doing social change work and community organizing and culture work. And I was like, I get it. I know what I'm doing. And then the whole world shut down. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And it was community that got me through it. It was community and leaning into people who were like, you need to take a break from work, when I never even thought that that was a possibility for myself. So I just wanted to share that too. And then the second thing that came up for me, and what you were sharing, Horace, around like, there's something you said around like going into self, but then also like leaning on land and earth and the abundance it provides. And I think that in the vein of like, what are futures that I envision, something that I envision for the future is not necessarily seeing like individual, collective, and land as separate entities, but seeing us as one and the same. And like literally the water in my body is the water that I was born from and nourished me. And being able to see myself in my enemy, and that's a very like Buddhist concept, but I think that like that is something that I wish for. And it's one thing to talk about it intellectually. I think we all kind of get the whole concept of interconnectedness. I am you, you are me. But there's something around the like practice of it that I think, like, I'm not even saying I know what that is like by any means, but I wish that for all of us to really feel that deep connection. And maybe like the last time I really felt it was standing by the Mekong River in 2018, when I got to visit with my family and being like, these are the waters that I come from. These are the waters that my people come from. And feeling that in a like deeply spiritual sense is something that I wish for everybody. And then I also think about this concept of like imagination that we talked about when we were prepping for this roundtable. There's a book called Imagination, a Manifesto by Ruha Benjamin, where she writes about the ways that play and envisioning and imagination is for all of us, but over time and through these systems has been like gate kept by the privileged few. And we all live inside of white men's imaginations. And what could it be like if imagination was made more accessible, or like we were accessible isn't even the word. It's like, what if we could remember our ability to imagine and create new worlds? And so when I think about the future that I envision, it's like I envision a future of more visioning. I wish for imagination to make its way into the mainstream, and for all of us to be able to think about like, oh man, what would it be like to have an Indigenous woman as the president of the United States? And if we could hold that vision together in huge quantities, that can be a reality, but we have to start with the imagination. So much more to say. I'll stop there.
Ugh, everyone is just crushing it. Jeez. Wow, so much there. Yeah, what if we could remember our ability to manifest? What would happen if we all truly understood our ability as creators to manipulate our reality on a physical and spiritual plane? Wow. And also the ancestral lands that we come from, going back to it and experiencing the waters and the lands and the codes, it just hits different. And I don't know how to explain that without people experiencing it themselves. I experienced that when I met Anthos in Costa Rica and forever changed as a person. So thanks for bringing up that point as well. I'm going to move to Talia. And I'm curious if anything has come up for you that you'd like to share. And also this question of like, do you believe that our divinity is like being suppressed, and why? Why is that creator part of ourselves being suppressed? Is it because, yeah, I'm curious if that brings anything up for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the shares. I feel really lit up right now. Yeah, I definitely think our divinity is being suppressed in many ways. And I think that's largely due to systems of oppression and just like the way that we were raised, the world that we were born into. And I think that a lot of it comes from, within, and not understanding like what we're really capable of. And that's because we've been so suppressed in so many ways, and we've been told otherwise. And, I think a lot of that healing from me has come with, healing my relationship with nature, and, like my fundamental connection with the natural world. And I think that, this deep like ecological awareness is something that can be really uniting in, humanity as a whole, creating sustainable systems. When I think about, the new earth, because I pray about this a lot, and it is hard to imagine like how we'll get there at times. And sometimes it's hard to like really, really maintain the hope because of what's happening in the world. And also because of, the information that we have access to right at our fingertips. It can be really isolating. I talk about this dichotomy between like being alone and, maybe like the whole doom scroll concept, and how much we really have access to at our fingertips, and how it feels like we have, a deep connection with everyone through these social networks, but also it can feel at the same time like really, really lonely and sad. So I think that, a huge part of the new earth in my vision is, restoring regenerative practices, indigenous wisdom, and sort of dismantling these systems of oppression, and like equitable distribution, cultural liberation, decolonization, like all of the things, right? But when I think of the new earth and how it feels like people feeling safe in their bodies again. People remembering where they come from, who they are, people feeling like really, really happy to be here, happy to wake up in the morning and work for something that feels divine to them. And it reminds me of this concept that we have in a Hawaiian culture, and it's called kuleana. And kuleana is sort of like a divine responsibility that you feel like you have in this life. And it's not necessarily always something that's going to be easy. It's most likely not. But it's something that you need to do. And I want people to be in tune with that, to feel like they have purpose. And I feel like that will come when we sort of remember, like our ancestry and our roots and our connection with nature, because it's so inherent to who we are as individuals. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing Kuleana and that part of your ancestry. I'd love to ask you a follow-up question, but before that, if anyone has, or this time goes by so quickly, we're almost at the end. But if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask our panel, feel free to put it in the chat. And as we wait for that, I'd love to ask you, Talia, and I feel like it's connected from where I'm seeing where your answer might go. But how and why do the plants bring us together? Very open-ended, but I'm curious how you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about this in the community of practitioners, and like sort of the big like why are they doing this for us, right? And I think that if we truly believe that we are, a part of nature and that we are nature, then why wouldn't we all want to work in reciprocity with each other, right? Because I feel like when the plants and the fungi, they allow us to remember who we are, and in turn we're going to want to protect them. And it's sort like that model, I think, is hugely representative of how we should be living our lives, and that's how the fungi do it. It is a symbiotic relationship. You're never really just doing it for someone else. Like deep down, you're also doing it for yourself. And that's like how we evolve. And it can be a really, really beautiful thing to just know that we have that sort of support from nature, and that we can always like rely on these allies to help us in some of our like darkest moments. And for me, it's been, the deepest transformation, and they'll always show you the truth. And I say that they like to show you your shit in the like most mothering way. And that's like any good teacher, any good mother, she's going to tell you the truth, but she's going to say, but it's okay. And like, it's going to be okay. And that's sort of like what the plants have done for me. And yeah, I think they're really doing it to help us in our evolution, and so that we can create a better world as a whole.
Beautiful. I'm so psychic. I love what you share around like us. Like the plants want us to learn how to protect each other. They're extremely truthful. They want us to see that, plants aren't greedy and they aren't taking too many resources from each other. It's very balanced, and through that, they're in a sense teaching us how to also live coherently with each other. Of like, oh, something's weird here that, all of these people at the top have the resources, but all these other people are suffering. I'm just gonna look at the chat. Let's see. So I'm gonna ask Winnie's question. Yeah, I'd love to ask Anthos this. Any great memories that made you fall in love with the beauty of nature and the plant world? How does the plants connect with you and teach you how to be in flow and trust? Anthos, anything there you want to share?
I'm gonna share with you. Well, because this is a beautiful moment, and I feel all of you vibrate a lot. So there's a lot of love, and I'm gonna share an intimate experience. When my grandfather passed away, and my grandma had these flowers, at the altar for him, and she took them and she put them on the ground, and she was like, and I was a kid, and I was like, Grandma, do that flowers reproduce like that? Like, are you sure they are gonna grow from there? I knew it wasn't like that. I knew it wasn't like that. That was why I was asking. And she answered me, I don't know. But I felt the love of her because those were the flowers that she used for my grandfather. And I was like, I'm gonna get those flowers for my grandma. And and yeah, like plants, flowers, the beauty of nature is always there for us. In your sadness, whenever you're sad, you just go to nature and you feel nice again. You know, the birds always sing, and yeah, um, they are there for you. They are always there for you. They are there for us, and they want us back. Nature wants us back because all we're harming ourselves also. We're harming ourselves so much sometimes we don't see the beauty in a small flower that is there, and it's just flowering, and the flower is happy by itself. Plants and birds are happy by themselves, and they are open to share that light and beauty with us. They don't want anything back from us. Anything is not the system. The system always wants your energy. You have to do more, you have to do always more. But nature is not like that. Nature is real abundance, is real Israel share, Israel love, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Anthos. So beautiful. I know we all feel your love of nature. I feel it that month I spent with you in Costa Rica. I learned so much about what nature really is and what plants really are. And it's so true what you share. Like nature wants us back very, very graciously. She has her arms open, because, like you said, we are harming ourselves. We are doing things in ways that aren't beneficial to ourselves and those around us. And I love what you share because it really personifies what nature is like, and her open heart of them not needing anything from us. They just want to share. And how do we take on that gratitude and that level of reciprocity and love that nature is offering to us? How do we learn that, internalize that, and then offer that to each other? And I love that we are, in a sense, ending our talk today, on that note. We have a little bit more time to hear the reflections of anyone else in the group. But yeah, so powerful. Anyone on the panel, anything you guys want to share around any beautiful memories that you have related to nature, the plant world, how the plants connect with you, how they teach you how to be in flow and trust, or just anything in general that you would like to touch upon before we close today?
I'll briefly share about my first experience sitting with mushrooms. And I love plants so much, but mushrooms, they've been there for me, and they've shown me some shit. Like you said, Britt, I related to that. Um, I was 17 years old when I first sat with mushrooms with my childhood best friend at one of our favorite beaches. And I specifically recall that she was leaving to college the following week, and she was 2 years older than me. And yeah, we just had this spontaneous idea to eat mushrooms together, and mushrooms actually grow wild. This certain species of Paniolis grow out of cow dung in Hawaii. So we went and picked them and sort of had a ceremony, not even knowing that we were having a ceremony, and just set an intention over our experience. And I just remember this highlight of feeling a sort of forgiveness for every single person that I had a grudge on my whole life in one moment. And it was the biggest release of anything pent up that I was holding. And I mean, it was so many tears and so many purging during that experience. And it was simultaneously the most beautiful and heart opening experience of my whole life. And I think that that first experience, there's something to be said about just yeah, shattering everything you thought and also having deep forgiveness for everyone who's ever hurt you. And I feel like that's a huge part of a spiritual awakening, as well as just seeing all of the darkest, most insecure parts of yourself and being I still love myself. And the mushrooms have showed me that in many ways. And I'm so grateful for them for that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, the mushrooms teaching us grace and how to be gentle with ourselves, and understanding that this life isn't easy. So thank you. Britt, I'd actually love to ask you a different question than what was asked. Um, it just kind of came to me. So feel free to share whatever you feel, whatever comes to mind. But If you could leave a memory or a piece of literature in a time capsule for the future, what would you leave?
Man, that's such a good question. There's so many things. Do I have to choose one? Can I choose a few? Mm. Okay, I'll share a couple of things. And I think this actually answers both yours and Winnie's question. The memory that has been at the top of my mind this whole time is in 2022, I got to visit an elk reserve up in Northern California near Mount Tam. And it was a really foggy, rainy day, and it was just me and my partner and no one else on this hiking trail. And like you're hiking right by the ocean, but you can't see it because it's so foggy. And we took like an hour-long hike out and back. And as we were we were just starting to drive away, off the side of the road, out of the fog, comes this like legit elk. I've never seen an elk in my life, but it was like an elk lord comes out of this fog with his antlers, and he's like making his way towards us, and he just stops and like looks at us. And we were like looking at him, and like time stood still. And then he just like turned around and walked back into the fog. And that was, I don't even know, like that was 2 or 3 years ago, and I still don't know what the message was, but like there was a message, and it's still rippling, and like I trust that at some point in the future I'm going to like receive it and be like, oh shit, that's exactly what he wanted me to know. I'm moving up closer to that area this summer. I'm going to be visiting the same reserve for my 30th birthday in July. So maybe it'll happen then. So that's like the memory that I would want to leave in the time capsule. Too many pieces of literature. So I'm gonna save that for the post email.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Britt, thank you so much for sharing your Harry Potter Patronus story. You know, maybe that was you in the future. Right when you started talking, I started smelling cedar. Usually it never happens. So yeah, now I kind of want to burn some and actually smell it. So thank you so much for bringing me into nature and into that memory, I guess. Um, but yeah, thank you all so much. I feel like that was so special. Can we do this again? Like, how gorgeous is like everyone's life here and everyone's experience? And I think that is the magic that I was feeling when I brought together everyone in this way. It was like, these are my favorite people that I've met in the last 10 years, and they're all these amazing, spiritual, balanced, um, heart centered people. What can I do to help uplift them? And I feel like the most I can do is bring us together and have us just connect to each other's hearts and know that connection can be enough. Sharing around a virtual fire can be enough. And, you know, these are very special moments that I feel like they deliver something very special and intangible to us. So thank you so much for being here and trusting this process of the last 7 weeks. I feel like I should give out graduation certificates. That a lot of what happens behind the scenes in this process, as people, we're not backed by a company, we don't have funding, we are just people just coming together on Zoom and our group chat and sending voice notes back and forth and trying to figure out how we interweave with each other in a very non-forcing way, because we're all kind of going through our own things and stuff like that. So it's not like a forcing of friendships, it's a more of an allowance of when the heart wants to step forward, it can, and when it can't, that's also totally fine. And understanding that is the human way that we connect with each other. It's not forced, it is just surrender. So thank you all for surrendering to the last 2 hours and this process. I would love for us to just take a moment to close our eyes and just take a second to take everything in that was shared. Deepening the breath here. We'll take a moment to pour anything that didn't resonate with us today back into the river of life. And giving gratitude to whatever we're leaving with today. Noticing how maybe you feel a little bit different, maybe a little bit more inspired. In your own way, in your own time, you can stay in this space if you'd like, or gently come back. Some integration tips before we part ways. Journal. Maybe make a video diary after this, record yourself, draw, move your body. Just continue to reflect how our stories connect with yours and how we are all mirrors in a sense. And yeah, just taking a look at anything that came up for you. I'm sure there's a lot of meaning there. I'm going to ask our guests to stay on for a few extra minutes, but we're sending you all so much love and so much strength during these very uncertain times. Keep on fighting the good fight. And we do this work of connecting, of regulating our nervous systems in a sense so that we can show up stronger and better out in the world with more tools to fight against those who are oppressing us. So thank you all so much. Sending you all so much love. Until next time.